once you see your vision as possible, then you begin to shift from possible to the next level, probable. You make this shift by asking the question that we avoided earlier. How might I? How is not a bad question. In fact, it is a perfectly good question, but the timing is critical. Ask it too early and it shuts down the whole process. But once you see your vision as possible, the question of how is an essential one. If the question of what if is the vision in question, then the question of how is the planning question. The final shift needed in your thinking to create an effective vision is to move from probable to given. This shift happens naturally as you begin to implement the planned actions. Given is a powerful state of mind where any question of doubt is gone, and mentally you are already standing in the end results. As you see the results start to materialize, your thinking shifts almost automatically to given. Crafting your vision. The best visions balance your personal and professional lives. Typically, your passion comes from your personal vision, and passion is the energy source that helps you push through the pain of change and the valley of despair. If you're going to create breakthrough and reach your next level, you will need to move through the fear, uncertainty, and discomfort of the valley of despair. It is your personal vision that keeps you in the game when things become difficult. Your vision provides you with a line of sight, an emotional link to help you overcome the challenges and execute. When the task seems too difficult or unpleasant, you can reconnect with your vision. It is this emotional connection that will provide you with the inner strength to forge ahead in spite of any difficulties, enabling you to achieve your dreams and desires. There are 3 time horizons that you'll want to focus your vision on. 1. Long-term aspirations. 2. Mid-term goals about 3 years into the future. 3. 12 weeks, covered in the next chapter. Aspirational vision. So, let's start with the long-term aspirational vision. In formulating your vision, you must let your mind expand to imagine and even embrace the possibilities that often get pushed aside in our daily lives as being not immediate enough to command our attention, impractical, or too audacious to even consider, let alone pursue. Take a few minutes right now and think about all of the things that you want to have, do, and be in your life. What is the most important to you physically, spiritually, mentally, relationally, financially, professionally, and personally? How much time freedom do you want? What income do you desire? Write everything you can think of on a sheet of paper, leave nothing off the page. Now, take the items from your page that you connect with emotionally and construct a vision of your life 5, 10, 15 years into the future. Be bold. Be courageous. Create a life vision that inspires you and fulfills your purpose. There are no right or wrong answers. This is the life you deeply desire. 3-year vision. Now that we've got you thinking about the possibilities in your life, let's get specific. Based on your long-term vision, what do you want to create over the next 3 years? Describe in as much detail as possible what a great personal and professional life would look like 3 years from today. The more specific you are at this stage, the easier it will be to create your 12-week goals and your plan. Thinking shift. By its nature, vision is a thinking exercise, but how you view the concept of vision will impact the degree to which you leverage and benefit from it. The predominant limiting belief regarding vision is that it is soft and fluffy, insignificant in the success equation and the attainment of results. As you now know, that is not the case. Vision, when engaged properly, is the ignition switch and power source of high performance. It is the all-important why behind the things you do. When viewed in this light, Vision has the power to enable one to confront and conquer fears, take bold, consistent action, and lead life of significance. The shift in thinking from seeing vision as fluff to seeing it as the mother of all antecedents is a fundamental shift in thinking that will pay huge dividends. When you understand the true power of vision, you will want to spend more time connecting with your own vision to begin to free yourself from the self-imposed limitations that have held you back. Vision is the starting point of all high performance. Team application. While vision is generally an intensely personal exercise, a manager can often take specific actions that will help their direct reports to more effectively leverage their visions. Vision is the best starting point for all effective performance-based coaching relationships because vision creates ownership. If your direct reports take ownership of their visions, it will be much easier to help them to own their goals and plan tactics as well. This is a critical step because without it, the goals and plans they develop will be yours, not theirs. Review the visions of your team in individual one-on-one sessions. Ask permission to review their professional visions with them. Dig into why the business vision they have is important to them. Explore what achieving their business goals enables in their personal lives. Inquire about the level of ownership and emotional connection they have for their vision. Questions that uncover the degree of ownership. Why are the elements of your vision important to you? What will you be able to do if you reach your vision that you cannot do now? What will be different for you, your family, your friends, your peers, your clients, your community, if you reach that goal? Are you willing to commit to the actions needed to reach your vision? Who have you shared your vision with? How often have you looked at your vision since you wrote it? What actions do you have to take to make progress on your vision and reach your 12-week goal?
Yes.
What risks or barriers exist that may get in the way of you reaching your vision and goals? How can I best support and help you achieve your goals and vision? Once they have clear ownership of their visions, the next step is to help them build an action plan to achieve them. The how-to section on 12-week planning in Chapter 14 will help you assist with that step. When you conduct individual coaching sessions with your direct reports, and we encourage you to do these at least monthly, start the conversations with their vision. Are they making progress? Discuss their willingness to take the day-to-day actions necessary to reach it. If they are unwilling to take the difficult actions, confront them with the reality that they won't attain their long-term vision. The breakdown is a question of ownership. When an individual is reluctant to take the necessary actions required to accomplish a goal, it is an indication that they own their current comfort more than they own the future described in their vision. In these cases, people have a couple of choices. They can either lower their expectations in life or find the courage and discipline to execute the planned tactics consistently. The good news is that many times, when confronted with this choice, your team members will reconnect and choose their aspirational vision over mediocrity. Team visions. As a leader, it's important that you establish a team vision for your company, division, or group. We're not talking about a vision statement that is worded just so and framed and hung on the wall. The team vision is similar to the individual vision, in that it describes the destination at a fixed point in the future. As a group, you will want to put some stakes in the ground with regard to what matters most. This is best accomplished by having each team member first work through their individual visions, then come together as a group to create a common team vision. When creating the team vision, you will want to apply many of the same dynamics used in creating your personal visions. Start with the long term by having everyone brainstorm what a great company or office would look like in the future. Get them to be as specific as possible and assign numeric values where applicable. Give everyone a chance to share their thoughts with the group, then narrow the horizon, look 3 years out, and work together to determine the specific elements that will stay part of the vision and those that won't. Common pitfalls and success tips. Pitfall 1. You don't take the power of vision seriously. Some people, especially type A people, think that vision is fluff. Those who think about vision this way tend to leap past the question of purpose and dive into action. Problem is that when the going gets difficult, it is harder to stay committed to the work in the long run because there's no compelling reason, no persuasive why. The behaviors associated with this pitfall are not keeping your vision in front of you, not aligning your plans with it, and not remembering what is in it. Pitfall 2. The vision isn't meaningful to you. Sometimes we are superficial in crafting our vision. We capture what we think we want, what we think we are supposed to want, rather than capturing what is meaningful to us. Visioning takes time. Keep working on it until you have something that connects emotionally. Pitfall 3. Your vision is too small. A small vision doesn't call on our best efforts. We don't have to reach and we don't have to sacrifice our comfort. A small vision might be achievable, but we leave our best undelivered. To be most effective, your vision should make you feel uncomfortable and challenge you to do things differently and do different things. Pitfall 4. You don't connect your vision to your daily actions. Each day is an opportunity either to make progress on your vision or tread water. If you want to work from a plan that is aligned with your vision, you can be sure that you are acting on the most important things every day. You've crafted your vision and checked to avoid making these common mistakes.
Okay.
Now, here are 3 important action steps to take to make your vision even more powerful for you. Success tip 1. Share it with others. Sharing your vision increases your commitment to it. When you tell someone else what you want in life, you feel more responsibility to act. Success tip 2. Stay in touch with your vision. Print it out and keep it with you. Review it each morning and update it every time that you discover ways to make it more vivid and meaningful to you. Success tip 3. Live with intention. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect on the progress that you made today. Did it move you forward, or was it filled with activity that wasn't related to your vision? Resolve to be intentional in your actions to make progress on your vision. What action will you take tomorrow? Chapter 14. Develop your 12-week plan. This chapter will guide you through the development of your first 12-week plan. Before you create a 12-week plan, you must define and commit to your vision. If you have not already done so, be sure to work through Chapter 13, Establish Your Vision, to prepare you to set an effective 12-week goal and to create a solid plan to reach it. Planning is beneficial. Unless your job is mostly reactionary in nature, it's hard to argue against the value of planning. Planning enables you to allocate your time and resources to your highest value opportunities. It increases your odds of successfully hitting your goals, it helps you to coordinate your team, and it creates a competitive advantage. In spite of the proven benefits of working from a plan, not everyone does so. One reason for this is that many people have a bias for taking action. While an action bias can be a good thing, it can also get in the way of effective execution. We can get impatient and want to get on with things too quickly. An effective plan takes time to create, and it requires some hard work. It may seem counterintuitive, but by taking the time to plan up front, the overall time and effort to complete a task can be significantly reduced. Another reason that many people don't work from a plan is that they have a belief that goes something like, I already know what I need to do, so I don't need a plan to get it done. On the surface, this may seem reasonable, but unfortunately there is almost always a gap between what people know and what they do. For example, many people want to get into better physical shape, and virtually all of them know that it takes a healthy diet and exercise, but sadly, most people don't ever become more fit. That's because simply knowing what to do just isn't enough. The world is noisy, the unexpected happens, distractions arise, our innate desire for comfort tugs at us, and we lose focus on the things we know we should do. That's why, to increase your odds of success, one of the most powerful things you can do is to create and work from a written plan. 12-week planning isn't just valuable for business. A well-written plan can positively impact almost any area of your life. J.K. McAndrews tells this short story about his son and the 12-week year. My son Kevin is a senior at LSU, and a couple of years ago he was really struggling with balancing his time between school, fraternity, and his job with the football team. Over Christmas week that year, I taught him the basic principles of the 12-week year, and beginning with the next semester, he developed clearly defined goals with strategies and tactics to support them. Since then, he sends me a weekly plan every Sunday night, and even added his own wrinkle by finding an inspirational quote that will motivate him for that particular week. His grades have improved, and more importantly, he has had a better focus on his goals, is more organized, and has definitely come to understand the term greatness in the moment. Game changer. Operating in the 12-week year execution cycle creates an increased premium on the value of time. In 12 weeks, each day counts towards reaching your goals. The value of each moment is brought into sharp focus when there are only 12 weeks in your entire year. One of the benefits that comes from applying the 12-week year is learning to act in the moment, because that's where the future that you will experience is being created. Living your life in the moment, however, can be done in two very different ways, either reactively or proactively. If you are reactive in the moment, you risk taking suboptimal actions because the primary drivers of your actions are input triggers. The phone rings, the email dings, a new task appears, someone knocks on your door, and off you go. It is difficult in the moment to know what your highest value activities are because you are typically not choosing between good activity and bad activity. You are choosing between higher value and lower value activity, and that ranking often isn't clear in the moment. That's why 12-week planning is so beneficial. With an action-based plan, you don't have to rely on input triggers to initiate your actions. Instead, your plan triggers your actions. Your action choices are made proactively at the beginning of the 12 weeks when you create your plan. In short, a 12-week plan helps you get more of the right things done each day. And ultimately, it helps you reach your goals faster and with greater impact. Another benefit of 12-week planning is a fiercely consistent focus on the few vital actions that drive your results. You can't effectively pursue a large number of different things in a 12-week year because there simply isn't enough time to get everything done. In 12 weeks, you only focus on the minimum number of actions that are most important to hit your goal. You also benefit from 12-week planning because of the short time horizon. Uncertainty is reduced due to the shortened time frame, and as a result, you can plan effectively at the action level. Annual plans are typically not action-based because it is nearly impossible to predict the action needed 4 or more months out. This is a profound benefit of the 12-week year. Due to increased uncertainty, most annual plans are objective-based and cannot be executed as written. Typical annual plans tell you what has to be achieved, but they don't specify how. When the how is not clearly defined, you lose a sense of scope and can easily take on more than you can physically execute. The daily and weekly hows of a 12-week plan are what makes it execution-friendly. When you get down to action-level granularity on your plan, you are setting yourself up for success. Here's how our friend Patrick Morin describes his experience with 12-week planning. My passion for the 12-week year began with the challenge to drop 38 pounds that just wouldn't go away. The period goal, strategy, and tactics fit perfectly into solving my nagging weight problem, and also gave me exactly the right tools to prepare for a triathlon. After reaching my goal and buzzing with my new fitness, I looked around for other ways to apply the 12-week year. At that time, we were raising money for a new startup company in the healthcare industry. We had started in earnest in January, writing all the required documents and preparing the product. The process was taking longer than we had anticipated, and we continued to have to fund the company internally. It was straining both resources and patience. It seemed to me that this would be the perfect place to implement the 12-week year. On a Monday in early July, I gathered the senior staff to plan it out. The critical objective was pretty clear. In order for the idea and the company to survive, we would have to finish the private placement memorandum and raise the money in the next 12 weeks. The economic climate at the time could best be described as dismal. Investors in general were hard to come by, and this would require a Herculean effort. The vision for the company was clear. The next step was to create a 12-week plan to acquire funding. We had to forget the previous 6 months slog and focus only on the 12 weeks ahead. Using the battle cry, every day is a week, we finished a 100-page PPM in the first week. We got it to our legal team for review, and a week later we were green-lighted. That's when the real energy kicked in. Reaching out to a network of hundreds of people that were personally known to each of us, we found a critical mass of people willing to step in, and we closed the first round on October 10th. The energy created around this effort continued through our development efforts, and each of our projects took on its own 12-week year. The company's cadence was remarked upon by investors, employees, and officers alike. A good plan fosters solid execution. Imagine driving cross-country with directions that have turns out of order, combine several instructions into one, and leave out big chunks of the trip. You'd probably want to smack the person who created those directions and would either stop to get better directions or give up and go home in frustration. That may sound silly, but I bet that you would be surprised by how many people create business plans just like those bad directions. We see plans all the time that are missing steps, lumped with complicated, time-consuming processes into a single tactic. We have actions out of sequence. Worse yet, rather than specifying the actions needed to reach the goal, many times the plan is just a collection of thoughts and ideas. It would be like driving from Miami to Chicago using directions that said something like, get in your car and drive in the general direction of Chicago. Plans like this are way too common, and they keep you from executing. Writing an effective 12-week plan is key to accomplishing great things in only 12 weeks. The plan defines the actions that you will need to take each week of the 12 to reach your goal. Long-term capacity versus short-term results. Plans can both build capacity for the future and drive short-term results. Every plan should have a goal to drive business results in the current 12 weeks. If the plan is for your business, this means that it should always target income to be realized in the current 12 weeks. Some plans may also target building future capacity. Capacity objectives include such things as pursuing education, hiring staff, updating technology, implementing new systems, and so on. Effort and resources expended to build capacity happen immediately, while the benefits are realized sometime in the future. That's why it's important to always have activity in your plan that creates required short-term results. Effective plan structure. The structure of the plan that you write matters if you want to set yourself up to be successful. A good plan starts with a good goal. If your goal is not specific or measurable, the plan that you write will also be vague. The more specific and measurable your 12-week goals, the easier it will be to write a solid 12-week plan. Many 12-week efforts are comprised of 2 or 3 goals. For example, you might have a 12-week goal to lose 10 pounds and another goal to generate $105,000 in new business. Each of these goals then becomes a planning target for which you need to write tactics. Tactics for the weight goal are specific actions you must take to achieve your desired weight. If you are working to lose weight, your tactics might include limit calorie intake to 1,200 per day and do 20 minutes of cardio 3 times per week. These tactics start with a verb without complete sentences. The way that you write your goals and tactics matters. Your income goal of $105,000 would have a separate set of tactics. There are 5 criteria that will help you create better 12-week plans when you are writing goals and tactics. Criteria 1. Make them specific and measurable. For each goal and tactic, be sure to quantify and qualify what success looks like. How many calls will you make? How many pounds will you lose? How far will you run? How much income will you earn? The more specific you can be, the better. Criteria 2. State them positively. Focus on what you want to happen that is positive. For example, rather than focusing on a 2% error rate, you would target a 98% accuracy rate. Criteria 3. Ensure that they are a realistic stretch. If you can accomplish the goal without doing anything differently, then you probably need to stretch more. If it is absolutely impossible, then factor it back a little. If you have never asked for a business referral in your life, a tactic like ask for referrals in every client interaction might be a bridge too far. A more realistic tactic that will still be a stretch might be ask for a referral in at least 1 client meeting each week. Criteria 4. Assign accountability. This applies to people who are executing as part of a team. If you're on your own, the accountability is all yours. Individual accountability for each goal and tactic is critical. Everyone's challenge is no one's challenge. Criteria 5. Be time-bound. There is nothing like a deadline to get things started and keep them moving. Make sure to include a date by which the goal is to be reached or the tactic is to be executed. In addition to the previous criteria, each tactic should start with a verb, be a complete sentence, and be executable as written in the week that it's due. Establish your 12-week goals. Deciding where you are going is the first step to getting there. Effective planning absolutely begins with a well-written, specific, and measurable 12-week goal. A goal that you own, that, if you hit it, creates meaningful benefits for you. A goal that makes a difference. The 12-week goal is the bridge between your vision and your 12-week plan. Your 12-week goal should be a realistic stretch for you. If it isn't realistic, you will become discouraged. If it isn't a stretch, you don't need the 12-week year because your current way of operating will achieve your goal. It's now time to set your 12-week goal that aligns with your long-term vision and also represents greatness for you in and of itself in the next 12 weeks. Get started by going back to Chapter 13 to review your long-term and 3-year visions. Decide on the progress that you are willing to commit to achieving in the next 12 weeks. Once you've decided on your 12-week goal, record it. The best 12-week goals are realistic, but enough of a stretch that they will call on you to deliver your very best. Why is your 12-week goal important to you? If you hit it, what will be different? Writing your 12-week plan. Now it's time to write your first 12-week plan. The plan is the roadmap needed to reach your 12-week goals. The best plans are focused on one or two things that you want to make progress on in the next 12 weeks. The fewer goals and weekly actions there are, the easier the plan will be to execute. As George Patton once said, a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. Don't overanalyze the content of your plan. Don't be concerned that your plan isn't perfect. There are no perfect plans. Once you have a good plan, your execution of the tactics will help you to learn what works best, so you can refine your plan from there. Keep in mind that at its most basic level, planning is just problem solving. Your plan solves the problem of how to close the gap between your results today and your 12-week goal. To get started, write your first 12-week goal as Goal 1. Write each additional goal separately. You may find that you have just one goal. That's fine. Next, for each of your goals, define the highest priority daily and weekly actions that you must take to reach that goal. In order to do this, it might be helpful to brainstorm on a separate sheet of paper all the things you could do, and then select the ones that will have the greatest impact. Some actions may be repeating. Example given, work out each day, while other actions will happen only once in the 12 weeks. Example given, join a health club. For those actions you decide to implement, write them as full sentences that start with the verb and describe the action you intend to take. Finally, specify in the week do column the week 1 through 12 in which you intend to execute each action. Before you put your plan down, ask yourself these questions. What actions will you struggle with? What will you do to overcome those struggles? Thinking shift. Without a well-written plan, you are setting yourself up for poor execution. The way you think about planning itself is going to affect the quality of your plan and your success with the 12-week year overall. Let's take a look at some common mental breakdowns that might get in your way. Most people know that they are supposed to work from a plan, but if their experience has been that their plan rarely gets executed, they won't take the time to create a well-written one. If that has been your experience with planning, remember that the 12-week plan is quite different. A 12-week plan gets down to the critical actions that you will need to take each week to reach your goal. Actions make all the difference in a plan. You can't act on the objectives or goals that make up a typical 12-month plan, but you can execute the actions that make up a 12-week plan. Another thinking barrier to effective planning is that you don't have enough time to plan. This thinking is common, but it is flawed. Years ago, I was involved in an informal study that showed the time benefit of planning. If you take time to plan before engaging with a complex task, you reduce the overall time required to complete the task by as much as 20%. Team application. As a team leader, having your team engaged with the 12-week year can be transformational. Imagine if everyone on your team fully owned their aspirational visions and their 12-week goals. What would be different for you if your team was consistently executing on their highest value activities week in and week out? There are a few things that you can do as a manager to help your team get on the 12-week year quickly and with greatest impact. The first step is to ask them to listen to the 12-week year and have them work through the vision and planning templates. After they have created their vision and plan, schedule an individual sit-down with each person on your team to review their 12-week goals and plans. The purpose of this meeting is to refine their plan and to establish your role in helping them reach their 12-week goal. As you conduct these meetings with your team, start the conversation by focusing on their 12-week goals. Do they own the goal, or are they just interested in it? Is the goal realistic, or is it a stretch for them? Do they believe that they can reach their goal? Make appropriate suggestions for changing their goal if necessary, but make sure that the goal remains theirs, not yours, if you want them to own it. Once you have finished with the 12-week goal, shift to their tactical plan. As you provide coaching advice, seek to keep their plans focused on just the fewest number of goals and fewest number of tactics that are needed to reach each goal. Refer to the criteria earlier in the chapter for well-written goals and tactics for ideas on how to help them improve their plans. Team planning. As a manager or as a member of a team, sometimes it is necessary to create joint goals and plans. Often, effective team planning can more effectively leverage talent and resources than individual plans can. The process of team planning is similar to the individual process, except that the team sets a goal and builds a plan jointly. Ask for participant input toward the overall goal for the 12 weeks. Finalize the goal with the team and ensure that they own the goal jointly and individually. Next, brainstorm the tactics needed to reach each goal. Then, select the smallest possible number of the brainstormed tactics that, when executed, will attain the goal. It is important that each tactic be assigned to one individual, even if several people will work on it. Individual accountability for tactics is critical to drive the team execution process. However, if one of the team tactics will be completed individually by multiple team members, you will be better served by assigning a subset of the team goal to each team member. For example, if the team tactic is to conduct 20 prospecting meetings per week, and there are 4 team members, each might be individually assigned 5 prospecting meetings as their individual tactic. There are 2 last bits of advice for planning for teams. First, don't overestimate the capacity of your team. The best team plans are succinct and contain the minimal amount of activity to reach the team goal, no more. Second, don't front-load the plan. Instead, if possible, balance the actions over the entire 12 weeks. Common pitfalls and success tips. Don't let these 5 common pitfalls derail your achievement. Pitfall 1. Your 12-week plan does not align with your long-term vision. It's important that your 12-week goals and your plan are aligned with and an extension of your longer-term vision. When you set your goals, be certain that they are connected to your vision and determine where you need to be at the end of 12 weeks to be on pace with your long-term goals. Pitfall 2. You aren't staying focused. Focus is critical. If you establish too many goals, you end up with too many priorities and too many tactics to effectively execute. Everything cannot be a priority. You will need to say no to some things in order to be great at the things that matter most. It takes courage to limit your focus to a few key areas. Remember, each 12 weeks is a new year. Imagine if every 12 weeks you identified 1 or 2 key areas and went after those with passion and focus. Then, at the end of that 12-week period, you identified 1 or 2 new areas to focus on. The 12-week year is designed to help you focus on a few key areas and make significant progress in a short period of time. Pitfall 3. You don't make the tough choices. For each goal, it's not uncommon to identify 8, 10, or more tactics, actions, that you could take to move the ball down the field. In most cases, implementing every tactic you could think of is not necessary, and, in fact, can be a hindrance. Although it's helpful to brainstorm all the tactics you can think of, that doesn't mean you have to implement all of them. Trying to execute too many tactics can spread you too thin and leave you feeling overwhelmed. Despite this, it's important to remember that there is no right number of tactics. As with your goals, the general rule is less is more. If you can accomplish the goal with 4 tactics, then you don't need 5. Brainstorm all the tactics you can, and then select the critical few. Pitfall number 4. You don't keep it simple. task of planning can become very complex. In some companies, entire departments exist for the sole purpose of drafting strategic plans. For the purposes of the 12-week year, keep it simple. If you feel like it's getting too complicated, it probably is. Focus on a few key areas, the actions you can take to hit your goals. Pitfall 5. You don't make it meaningful. You must build your plan around the most important items, or there will be too little traction for you in the implementation phase. Too often, people build their plan around the goals that someone else thinks are important. Although executing your plan is not complex, it is not necessarily easy either. If your plan is not meaningful to you, then you will struggle to execute it. Be certain that you focus on the areas that matter most. Chapter 15. Installing process control. The 12-week year starts with a vision, and from that vision, you establish a set of 12-week goals. Based on those goals, you develop a 12-week plan. Then comes process control. Mike Tyson said that everyone has a plan until they get hit in the mouth. Process control is a set of tools and events that help you work your plan, even when you get hit in the mouth. Making sure things get done. It's not enough to have a vision and a plan. If your goals and plan are designed to help you achieve a higher level of performance, then you most likely have specific tactics that are new actions for you. New actions are almost always uncomfortable. That's one of the things that makes change so difficult. It's one thing to identify the actions needed to create a better result. It's a whole other thing to consistently do them. Without structural and environmental support, follow-through becomes a constant exercise of willpower. Relying on willpower occasionally can work, but, as studies have shown, willpower has a fatigue factor, and, as we've all experienced, sometimes we have the willpower and sometimes we don't. If you are going to achieve what you are capable of, you can't leave it up to willpower alone. Process control uses tools and events to create support structures that can augment and, in some cases, take the place of willpower. I can promise you that Michael Phelps, who holds more gold medals than any other Olympian, had days when he didn't feel like getting in the pool or working out in the gym, but he did. That's because he has structures in place that make it easier for him to get into the pool than not to. If you're going to be great, you need support structures just like he has. So, whether you've got a surplus of discipline on a particular day or not, you work your plan. There are two items I want to share with you that will form the foundation of your support. The first is the weekly plan. Weekly plans. The weekly plan is a powerful tool that translates the 12-week plan into daily and weekly action. The weekly part is the instrument that organizes and focuses your week. It becomes your game plan for each week. The weekly plan is not a glorified to-do list. Rather, it reflects the critical strategic activity that needs to take place that week in order to achieve your goals. Keep in mind that the weekly plan is a derivative of your 12-week plan. It is not something that you create each week based on what happens to be urgent at the time. On the contrary, the weekly plan is populated with the tactics from the 12-week plan that are due that particular week. This process ensures that the weekly plan contains only those actions that are strategic and critical in nature. Because the weekly plan is driven by the 12-week plan, which is connected to your long-term vision, you can be confident that the actions it contains are, by default, the most important actions of the week. If these tactics get done, you have a great week. If not, you've lost a week. Having this level of clarity each week is not only powerful, it's life-changing. Our online system, Achieve, has a sample weekly plan. In this example, you can see that each individual goal is stated and has the affiliated tactics that are due this week. We strongly recommend that you print a copy and calendarize these critical activities. The printed weekly plan then becomes the document that you use to manage each day and ensure that these items get completed this week. Don't go it alone. The second element of process control is peer support. There was a fascinating article in Fast Company in May 2005 entitled Change or Die that presents studies conducted with patients who had severe medical conditions that required lifestyle changes in order to live. The sad fact was that after only 12 months, 90% of the patients had reverted back to their old lifestyles, virtually guaranteeing an impending death. Faced with the imminent threat of death, an overwhelming majority of people still failed to consistently make more productive choices. There was a group that had a much higher success rate, almost 7 times greater. These patients were involved in peer support sessions, and they had a success rate of nearly 80%. The groups not involved in peer support had a 10% success rate. These statistics remind me of what George Shinn, the owner of the Charlotte Hornets basketball team, once said. There is no such thing as a self-made man. You will reach your goals only with the help of others. The groups involved in peer support met on a regular basis and discussed their progress, struggles, and challenges. By encouraging one another, they generally stayed on track. The lesson is that if you are implementing change, don't go it alone. Your chances of success are 7 times greater if you employ peer support. In working with thousands of clients over the past decade, we have experienced the same dynamic. When clients meet regularly with a group of peers, they perform better. When they don't, performance suffers. We recommend forming a group of 2 to 4 committed individuals to meet weekly. We call these meetings WAMs, which stands for Weekly Accountability Meeting. Assuming you've listened to the chapter on accountability, then you know this meeting is not about trying to hold each other accountable, but rather fostering individual accountability to consistently execute your plan. The WAM is a critical element of process control. It's a short meeting that is typically held on a Monday morning after everyone has had a chance to plan their week, and it lasts approximately 15 to 30 minutes. This is not a punitive session where we try to hold others accountable and dole out negative consequences or tongue lashing for those who are faltering. The WAM is used to confront breakdowns, recognize progress, create focus, and encourage action. Most WAMs loosely follow a standard agenda as follows. Feel free to amend the agenda as you see fit, as long as you keep the focus on the execution. Weekly Accountability Meeting Agenda. 1. Individual report out. Each member states how they are tracking against their goals and how well they executed. Here are 4 areas to focus on. A. Your results for the 12-week year to date. B. Your weekly execution score. C. Intentions for the coming week. D. Feedback and suggestions from the group. 2. Successful techniques. As a group, discuss what's been working well and how to incorporate these techniques into one another's plan. 3. Encouragement. The format is pretty straightforward. Each individual gets a few minutes to report out to the group. You will want to comment on your results to date. Are you on track, ahead of where you should be at this point, or behind? Next, you'll tell the group your weekly execution score. You'll learn how to calculate this in Chapter 16. You will also announce your intentions for this week as they relate to your execution. Finally, the group will challenge you, congratulate you, and provide feedback and suggestions. After each member has reported out, you can have a short conversation on what members are doing that is working well and is transferable to others' plans and goals. The WAM ends with encouraging the group to have a productive week. Leslie Liljenberg leveraged her team's WAMs as the starting point for redesigning how the team spent their days. Here's how Leslie describes it. Overall, executing our 12-week plans made us more aware that every day counts. When we started, we assigned each staff member an area of interest, and they created an action plan to grow that area. Each 12-week year, we evaluated those assignments and realigned what needed to happen accordingly. Weekly accountability meetings were probably the biggest success of all of the areas for us. When staff began to evaluate all that they achieved on a weekly basis, they became more aware of where they spent their time. We decided to spend a day with each staff person with our only focus being on how they spent their day. Doing this, we were able to determine where and how they were wasting time. This also helped us to make tough decisions to address some tasks that were more time-consuming than productive. The ROI on some of the tasks showed that they were not worth it and needed to be eliminated. If we didn't check in together as a team each week to review our progress, we probably never would have done this. Getting rid of annualized thinking helped us to know we had to hit the numbers quicker, and the WAMs helped us to do that. The leader is responsible for making sure the 12-week year stays on track and that the group does not venture away from the vision in the 12-week plan. My advice? Attend a WAM and stick to your plan, and the 12-week year will work. The weekly routine. The only way you will reach your 12-week goals is by taking action on your plan each day. The weekly plan and the WAM are 2 steps in a 3-step process called the weekly routine. These easy-to-follow steps will ensure that you execute each week and accomplish your goals. The weekly routine consists of 3 simple yet powerful steps. 1. Score your week. 2. Plan your week. 3. Participate in a WAM. Step 1. Score your week. In Chapter 16, you will see how the 12-week year enables you to effectively measure your execution through a weekly scorecard. This measure, more than any other, is the most powerful indicator of success that you have. As part of your weekly routine, you will want to take a few minutes each week and score your execution. You will learn more details about how to calculate these numbers in Chapter 16, but for now, just know that it is an essential part of your weekly routine. Step 2. Plan your week. So far, we have talked in detail about the importance of having and working from a weekly plan. If you are using Achieve, the system will automatically populate your weekly plan with the tactics that are due this week. If you are using a paper system like Freehand, then you will need to refer to your 12-week plan, pull out those tactics that are due this week, and transfer them to your weekly plan. In either case, don't start a week without a weekly plan. Each week, you will need to schedule about 15 minutes to score and plan your week. Approximately 70% of our clients perform this task first thing Monday morning. The other 30% do it sometime between Friday afternoon and Monday morning. It doesn't really matter when you do it, as long as you schedule a time that you can be consistent with each week. Step 3. Participate in a WAM. As I discussed previously, your probability of success greatly increases when you meet regularly with a small group of peers. Make a short list of those who you would like to WAM with each week, then contact those people and determine a regular day and time to meet. Also, decide if you'll meet in person or over the phone. Have each member enter the WAM in the calendar as a recurring event. These 3 simple steps form the basis of your high-performance system. The steps are easy to do, and even easier not to do. If you are really serious about your goals, then commit to this weekly routine. Thinking shift. Often people assume that because they know what they need to do, they won't benefit from a weekly plan. Based on numerous studies and our experience with thousands of clients, that is just not the case. A plan between your ears is not nearly as effective as a plan on paper. In our experience, you are 60 to 80% more likely to execute a written weekly plan than a plan that is in your head. Putting your plan to paper eliminates ambiguity and creates transparency. For some, this transparency is excruciatingly uncomfortable and produces all kinds of unproductive thinking that can keep you from creating a clear, written plan. Thinking often goes like this: I know what I need to do, so I don't need to write it down. Or, I need more flexibility than that. Writing it down just restricts me. Or, here's another one: I'm extremely busy, I don't have time for that. All of these are excuses designed to avoid personal accountability. Some people have the same kind of limited thinking when it comes to the WHAM meetings. They say, I don't have time for that, or only weak people need that. All of these thoughts and comments are smokescreens that reveal a deeper fear of transparency and accountability. Make no mistake, you will be more successful if you work from a written weekly plan and meet regularly with a group of your peers. Don't kid yourself, you're not different. To get the most out of your time in life, align your thinking with the benefits of the steps in the weekly routine. Team application. The 12-week year is a cultural change, a new way of operating. Lee Iacocca, former automotive CEO, said that the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. As the leader of your group, you ultimately shape the culture of your organization through your conversations, your actions, and your focus. The 12-week year is a cultural shift. For the organization to be successful in adopting it as an operating system and achieving the results you desire, you will need to champion the cause. Because culture is a reflection of the leader, your actions, more than anything else, will have the greatest impact on determining whether your team fully adopts and profits from the 12-week year. Your first task is to model the behavior that you want to see in them. That starts with you adopting the weekly routine, scoring and planning each week, and participating in a WHAM. The next step is for you to inspect individually all of your direct reports' habits. Do they have a plan each week? Are they scoring each week? Are they actively participating in a WHAM? There will be times when your people struggle. These are typically the times when they stop planning and scoring and drop out of the WHAM groups. This is the exact opposite of what they need. It is critical that they stay engaged. At these times, they will need your leadership and encouragement to stay in the game. You will want to formally review their weekly plans and scorecards with them at least once a month in a scheduled one-on-one coaching session. Occasionally, you may want to sit in on one of their WHAM meetings and provide some coaching and encouragement. Keep it positive. Recognize and celebrate early successes and maintain the focus on execution. Common pitfalls. Don't let these common pitfalls rob you of your success. Pitfall 1. You don't plan each week. Getting off to a fast start each week creates momentum and helps you to be more productive throughout the week. Monday is often a stress-filled day, and we can feel behind from the moment it begins. Often at the beginning of the week, we just jump right in with the email, voicemail, and whatever else may be awaiting us. In addition to just diving into our week, other things can get in the way of us taking time to plan the week, including a negative mindset. Maybe one of the following thoughts has slowed you down. You have no time for it. You think that you're just too busy and that you'll get to it later, but later never comes. You don't need it. The misguided thinking that somehow you're the exception and don't need a game plan for the week. Watch how quickly the time slips away. You're above it. Thinking that a weekly plan is for beginners, someone in your position doesn't need it. You already know it. The thinking that you already know what you need to do, so there's no benefit to writing it down or planning things out. You don't want to be accountable. For some, working from a written weekly plan creates a level of discomfort because it continually reminds them when they are not doing what they know they should be doing. Pitfall 2. You include all your tasks. The weekly plan does not contain everything you do in your job, just the strategic items from your 12-week plan. You should have a separate sheet with to-do items and callbacks. Do not dilute your plan by adding all the lower-level activities that you do in the course of your day. Keep the weekly plan for only strategic items and commitments. Pitfall 3. You assume that each week is the same. Another mistake that many make is assuming that each week has the same activity, so they create one weekly plan and then copy it each week. It's highly possible that many of your weeks look similar, but it's unlikely that all 12 weeks have the exact same activities due. Even if you are the statistical exception, the benefit of spending 5 to 10 minutes to set up your coming week pays big dividends. Pitfall 4. You add tactics weekly. Keep in mind that a weekly plan is essentially a 1/12th slice of your 12-week plan. Occasionally, you may add a tactic to your weekly plan, but this should not happen frequently. Most new tactics should be added to the 12-week plan first, and then flow through to the weekly plan. This prevents you from getting drawn into urgent activities that are not necessarily strategic. Pitfall 5. You don't use it to guide your day. Once you've created your weekly plan, you will want to use it daily to keep you on track with the activities that are most important to achieving your goals. Check in with your weekly plan first thing each morning, once or twice throughout the day, and before you go home. When you learn to guide your daily activity based on your weekly plan, you will begin to experience truly breakthrough performance. Pitfall 6. You don't make it part of your routine. Each of us has a routine. Routines are an important part of consistent success. Make the decision right now to incorporate the weekly routine. Chapter 16. Keeping score. Measurement drives the execution process. It is your touchstone with reality. Truly effective measurement combines both lead and lag indicators to provide the comprehensive feedback needed for informed decision-making. It is the feedback loop that lets you know if your actions are effective. Adam Black discusses the impact that his simple and daily measurement system had on his results. The 12-week year was suggested to me by a business partner at the end of 2011. It was perfect timing. After reading the book several times, I knew without a doubt that this system fit me perfectly. I'm the typical type A personality, hard-charging, aggressive, but sometimes missing the small details. With the 12-week year, I was able to slow myself down and systematically project what I wanted to achieve in the 12-week year in order to ultimately reach my longer-term objectives. I found that the beauty of it was that I could adjust my 12-week plans based on how my numbers moved. To help me stay focused on my highest value tasks, I created a simple 12-week calendar as a visual aid to measure my progress. The calendar keeps track of my 2 key daily lead and lag metrics every day. When I go home each night, I know exactly where I stand in terms of my 12-week goal. By tying these daily metrics to reaching my 12-week goal for dollar volume and units, I saw an increase of 65% in unit and dollar volume in 2012. As a result of applying the 12-week year, I've also already met my company's standard to qualify as a top producer, and will be rewarded with a trip in 2013. To say that the 12-week year has revolutionized my business would be an understatement. With the 12-week year, it became easier to reach my goals. No more rushing at the end of the year to meet an annual number. It has actually enriched my life so I can meet my goals, provide for my family, and spend more time doing the things I love away from work. As Adam discovered, measurement doesn't have to be complicated to be effective, but it does have to be timely. In the best measurement systems, there are lead indicators and lag indicators, as we discussed in Chapter 6. The lag indicators are the end results, and your 12-week goals are the ultimate lagging indicators. If you are tracking progress towards your goals, then you are tracking lag indicators. Lead indicators are the things that happen early in the execution process. They are the things that drive the lags. Most people are pretty good at tracking the lag indicators, but the opportunity for growth is usually the greatest with the lead indicators. What are the lead indicators for your goals? Let's say that you want to lose 10 pounds. The total weight goal of 10 pounds is a lag indicator because it happens at the end of the 12 weeks. A good lead measure might be the number of calories that you eat daily or weekly. Another might be the number of workouts you have each week, such as miles jogged, laps swum, minutes on the elliptical. You get the idea. Whatever indicators you decide to measure, be sure to track and record your progress each week of your 12-week year. In general, the more frequent a measure is, the more useful it is. For example, quarterly measures are typically better than annual measures. Annual measures provide feedback only once over a 12-month period. But if you are trying to improve a result and you only measure it once a year, there's no feedback throughout the year to help you determine if your actions are productive or not. Similarly, monthly measures are better than quarterly ones. They provide for more frequent feedback. Weekly is better than monthly, and daily is often better than weekly. With the 12-week year, we have you establish 12-week goals, so at the very least you will have a success measure that is no longer than 12 weeks. Even so, you will be well served to identify a set of lead indicators that you can track monthly, weekly, or daily. At this point, you've most likely set your 12-week goals and built your 12-week plan. So now is the time to establish a set of lead and lag indicators for each of your goals. If you haven't set your goals and created your plan, come back to this exercise after you have completed those steps. Be sure to track these measures each week. Use a spreadsheet, a word table, or the key measures section of our website to help you record and monitor your progress. As we discussed in the first section of this audiobook, the most effective lead indicator you can have is a measure of your weekly execution. It is critical that you measure execution. We have found that if you execute a minimum of 85% of the actions due in your weekly plan each week, you are very likely to hit your goals at the end of the 12 weeks. Whether you use the online tool, our paper system, or a legal pad, taking time each week to measure your execution is essential. You can find a sample weekly scorecard from Achieve, our suite of online tools, on our website. You can create one almost as easily using our paper-based system called Freehand. In both cases, you'll notice that what you measure on a weekly basis is the execution of your planned tactics, not your results. You simply check off or count up those tactics that you completed last week, regardless of the results you got. Let's go back to my fitness example. My goal is to lose 10 pounds during this 12-week period. My plan includes tactics like the following. Do 20 minutes of cardio, a minimum of 5 times a week. Train with weights 3 times per week. Drink at least 6 glasses of water each day. Limit my calorie intake to 1,200 per day. As part of my measurement system, I'm going to weigh myself each week and record my weight. But my weight is a lag indicator, so I'm also going to score my execution. To score my execution in this case, I would identify the number of tactics I completed as a percentage of the number possible. The online system Achieve does this automatically for me, so if I complete 3 out of 4, my weekly execution score would be 75%. The results measure and the execution measure are separate. In my example, I may have lost 2 pounds this week, but still only scored 75%. Because the results are lagging, I want to pay close attention to both measures, even though I lost 2 pounds. And even though I lost 2 pounds, I did not have a good week from an execution standpoint. What that tells me is that unless I execute better next week, my weight loss will stall out. Thinking shift. This is a major shift in thinking for most people. The thinking shift is twofold. First is the shift to embrace measurement and not to shy away from it, as is so often the case. Yes, measurement is cold and unsympathetic and at times even harsh. It discounts effort and has no regard for interruptions or distractions or any other excuse you can muster. But in the end, measurement is helpful and necessary. Without measurement, there is no way for you to know unequivocally if you are making progress. Without measurement, there is no way for you to know what adjustments would be productive. Without measurement, it's virtually impossible to hit your goals. The second thinking shift is to focus more on the actions than the results. Remember, you have greater control over your actions than you do your outcomes. Your outcomes are driven by your actions. The weekly plan and the weekly scorecard are focused on your actions. The scorecard measures whether you did what you said was most important in order to achieve your goals. As a result, your weekly scorecard is the most accurate predictor of your future. If you faithfully complete the critical actions on a daily and weekly basis, the results will come. So the process is less about the end result and more about the daily actions. That is why the scorecard only measures your execution and not your results. Team application. As a manager or leader, how you think about measurement and how you engage with it will ultimately impact your team's productivity and results. Too many managers mistakenly think about measurement as accountability. This mindset creates all kinds of dysfunction and barriers to high performance. When managers think this way about measurement, they tend to use it to trigger negative consequences for their direct reports. In other words, when measurement is seen as the accountability system, then managers use measurement and negative consequences to hold people accountable. In this environment, employees and associates quickly learn to avoid measurement and their manager. The more you use measurement to trigger negative consequences, the more your team will avoid and even openly resist measurement. Measurement is not accountability, it's simply feedback. The more effective use of measurement is as a feedback mechanism to identify breakdowns, progress, and successes. In this way, measurement allows you to confront reality and breakdowns without the pushback and collateral damage associated with negative consequences. Ideally, you want the performers to measure themselves. If they rely on you to track and tally their key measures, that is often an indication of a lack of ownership on their part. Think about that. If you were really committed to your goals and had a strong desire to accomplish them, wouldn't you track your progress? You know you have ownership when associates measure and track their own metrics. When your team is on the 12-week year, you will want to ensure that each of them has established a set of key measures, lead and lag indicators, that they are committed to tracking. This doesn't need to be a long list of measures, but rather just a handful of metrics that will provide meaningful feedback to the individual. In addition, with your team on the 12-week year, you now have the platform to coach from. Everything you need to effectively coach your people to higher performance and more consistent results is available through the 12-week year. One of those items is the weekly scorecard. As a manager, you'll want to check in with how your direct reports are scoring on a weekly basis. Without even knowing the specifics of an individual's plan, I can ascertain through their weekly score how likely it is that they will accomplish their goals. By inquiring about their weekly scores, you can know immediately if someone is at risk. If you have a direct report who scores less than 60% on any given week, it's an indication that they may need some help. One score doesn't make or break a 12-week year, but it certainly can be a red flag that some level of intervention is needed if the individual is to have any chance of hitting their 12-week goals. Common pitfalls and success tips. Once you have determined your metrics and are tracking them weekly, here are some pitfalls to avoid and tips to make the metrics work for you. Pitfall 1. You think that measurement is complicated or unimportant. Too many people use the "I'm not a numbers person" excuse as a reason to avoid measuring. Don't let that be you. If you are going to perform at your best, and achieve your goals, you will need to measure. Pitfall 2. You don't schedule a block of time each week to assess your progress. Determine a time each week, either at the end of the week or the first thing Monday morning, and block this time to score your execution, track your indicators, and plan your upcoming week. For most people, 10 to 15 minutes is sufficient. Pitfall 3. You abandon the system when you don't score well. Too often, people abandon the system and stop scoring when they have 2 bad weeks in a row. Have the courage to assess each week and don't back down, even when you have a disappointing week. Tip 1. Review your weekly score with a buddy or a small group of peers each week. Studies show that when people leverage teams, they get significantly more done on their plans. See the section on WHAMs in Chapter 15.
Oh.
Tip 2. Commit to make progress each week. Maybe you can't improve your execution from 45 to 85% in 1 week, but you can move from 45 to 55 or 60%. Focus on making progress. The goal is to raise your level of execution each week. A weekly score that is increasing is a positive sign that bodes well for succeeding with your goals. Tip 3. Remember that a weekly score of less than 85% isn't necessarily bad. A score of 65% might be an improvement in activity from the past 12 weeks. Even at 65%, most people will see an improvement in their results. The question you need to ask yourself is this: is an execution score of 65% enough to accomplish my 12-week goals? Tip 4. Don't be afraid to confront what your numbers are telling you. If you are unwilling to confront reality, then you will never be able to change it. When you track leading indicators, your execution system will help you to identify the root causes of any performance breakdowns you may experience. When there is a breakdown in your results, you need to know if it was caused by a breakdown in your execution or your plan content. There's a big difference, and the only way to know for sure is by measuring both results and execution. Chapter 17. Take back control of your day. One of the barriers that our clients often cite when explaining what keeps them from achieving more of what they are capable of is a lack of time. The lack of time reason is so common that it seems very real, yet more often than not, it's a smokescreen that covers over the real barrier. In fact, what most often keeps you from being exceptional is not a lack of time, but the way you allocate the time that you have. I know that sounds like semantics, but it's an important distinction. Here's an encouraging story of how time blocking allowed Annette Batista to balance competing demands on her time and still excel at what was most important to her. It has been almost 2 years since I first read the 12-week year. I devoured it and applied the principles not only in my home business, but on a personal and professional level as well. My 12-week goals were to be on pace each 12 weeks for the yearly award given to the top performers, and to begin to homeschool my child. In order to do this, I knew I needed a good plan. I'm an outreach counselor. In that role, I educate clients about their medical benefits. I assist them in choosing a medical plan and doctor for themselves and or their children, as well as a dental plan and dentist for their children. To meet my goals, each month I have to complete 650 phone calls and conduct 100 home visits. I also have to do presentations at local agencies, attend health fairs and community meetings, and do a minimum of 15 community contacts each month, 8 of which have to be done face-to-face. I have an area of 6 zip codes to cover in 2 counties. I worried how I would get all of this done. What could I do daily that would get me where I wanted to be by being steady and consistent? My profession is demanding and rewarding at the same time. I'm also a wife, mother, and grandmother. Becoming intentional about my plan in order to achieve everything I wanted to do would be critical. Time blocking effectively helped me reach my goals. I use buffer blocks each morning, usually for 1 hour from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. to check my email, send out an encouraging word to my colleagues, and then prioritize my contact lists by order of importance. I then move on to the time blocks that I schedule each day to perform my key activities. For the next 4 hours, 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. each day, I either make phone calls or home visits. These time blocks help me to stay on top of my very demanding workload. My time blocking works so well that by Tuesday, when I'm supposed to start calling my daily lists, I've already completed them. My weekly call lists are usually completed 1 or 2 weeks early each month. Next come my breakout blocks. After lunch each day, I start homeschooling, which takes me exactly 3 hours to do. Teaching gives me a break from work. I like teaching, and my son enjoys learning. The different subjects we cover, Bible, language arts, science, math, history, and geography, provide a great way to tune into several different options within my breakout block, so things are not mundane and boring. When homeschooling is done, I finish my day with another buffer block, wrapping up with a few calls, data entry of what has been done for the day, and checking my email one last time before the day ends to make sure nothing major is pending for the next day. Using the disciplines of time blocking in the 12-week year, I have been able to work ahead, sometimes even 2 weeks ahead. When I've gone on vacation, I've been able to enjoy it because I know I won't have things pending or undone when I get back. I have taken ownership of my plan. I have chosen to excel. My choices have gained me the respect of my manager and supervisor, as well as my colleagues, family, and friends. All of this being said, I not only accomplished my goal of earning the Outreach Counselor of the Year award in 2011, I also received that award this year